Hi, welcome to Shop Talk. I'm Jennifer Lynch.
And I'm Jim Silver. And this week on Shop Talk, we have Franz Jordan, CEO and founder of Sellics Software. Franz, welcome.
Welcome.
Hey guys, I'm excited to be here with you today.
Yes. So a lot of people use your software, but for those that aren't as familiar, can you talk a little bit about what Sellics is and what you guys do?
Sure. So Sellics is an all-in-one solution for brands selling products on Amazon. And essentially our goal is to help them with all the operational issues, eventually to make more money on Amazon really. So this is everything that Sellics is about. So we focus specifically only on Amazon. We don't cover any other channels, but within Amazon we cover all the use cases that you encounter as a brand selling on Amazon. So this is from SEO to ad management to profit analytics, competitive insights. So really everything that you deal with on a daily basis.
Let's talk about Amazon.
Yeah.
Now, how important is SEO on Amazon? Can you tell us a little bit of the A9 algorithm, how much it changes, how much you study it, and the whole, basically the Amazon ecosystem?
The whole ecosystem, yeah, that's a big question. Yeah. So I think that, so A9 stands for algorithm. So the A9 algorithm is essentially the algorithm that determines the ranking when you search or when the consumer searches for a keyword on Amazon. Right, so typically you go on Amazon, you type in a keyword and you hit enter, and then you get a list of products.
Right.
And so the A9 algorithm is determining which product is ranking on which pages or which rank. And so the SEO on Amazon essentially means you try to optimize for the A9 algorithm in order to rank higher for the relevant set of keywords to essentially increase your visibility and be more visible to consumers. And so I'd say that this is a very important aspect of selling on Amazon because the numbers that Amazon shares, and Amazon is always very secretive when it comes to sharing data, but the numbers that we know is that about 75% of all consumers that use Amazon are actually using the search bar. And only 25% are using other ways from external links or some other place.
Yeah, I use the search bar. Go on Amazon, open the search bar.
It is, and I think I was actually a bit surprised. I was expecting it's more than 75%, but so 75% is a very big number, which means that essentially 75% of the revenue is generated through the organic search or through the search result page. And so being visible on the first page is absolutely critical. It's the same as on Google. Right. If you don't rank on the first or maybe second page, then essentially you don't exist, right?
Right.
And so it is SEO on Amazon, I think, is today for many brands that sell online more important than SEO for Google.
I know a lot of manufacturers that don't do well on Amazon and they write their own listings.
Yes.
Can you talk about why the listings are so important in terms of having a specialist write them?
So, I mean, the listing is essentially, the listing has an impact on two things. So first of all, the keywords that you place on the listing determine how you rank on the search result page, right? But then also the title and the bullet points and the product description have a big impact on your conversion rate. And so you have this dual impact where it's visibility, but then also conversion rate, and both is responsible for your sales. I mean, essentially, it's visibility times conversion rate equals your sales. Writing a well-converting text is somewhat of an art, right? So you really need to be specialized in this. You need to understand the product, and you need to understand the target audience, and you also need to understand Amazon. And so what I find that many manufacturers, they have a very good understanding of their product. They have, depending somewhat of a good or typically a good understanding of the target audience, but they don't have an understanding of Amazon, how Amazon works. And so this is kind of where it makes sense to have specialized people, specialized content writers that really know Amazon and that then also learn about the product and the target audience. Yeah. So that's typically something that we find. I think the biggest mistake I see manufacturers making is that they take their internal technical specs and they just copy and paste them to Amazon, right?
Well, I think of it as like social media. Like you have to write towards the different platforms or create content towards the different platforms that you're working on. It's the same thing then, I guess, with Amazon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, having a product content on your website, on your own shop is probably different. than on Amazon. And so I think it's exactly this. Where, I mean, it's just simple things. So some specifically brands, they tend to have very interesting names for their colors, right? They don't call it blue, they call it some fancy version of blue. But the reality is on Amazon, no one is searching for your fancy version of blue.
Right.
They search for blue. And so as a keyword, you should use blue. But brands, they want to have, for branding reasons and for compliance reasons with internal guidelines and so on, they're tempted to use their fancy version of blue. And so this is a typical mistake that I see. Well, not necessarily a mistake, but something that I see happening a lot, where you just use words that you know as a manufacturer, but your clients are never going to use them.
Can you talk a little bit about how effective and efficient PPCs are on Amazon?
Sure. I mean, I think PPC is probably the most interesting and most dramatic development that we've seen over the past couple of years. So I've been following the Amazon ecosystem very closely since 2013, 2014. And so when we started with Sellics back then, the entire PPC stuff didn't really exist. So it was just in a very early version. And so back then, the ads that you saw were on the search result page, were at the end below the organic search results, right? So you had two placements below the organic search results. Okay. That's where you had PPC. And so then what happened over the years is just, and I mean, you know, the result today, you have them all over the place. And so today we did a test and we just searched for, I think, 150 keywords or so. And we found that, I think something like 120 or so, for 120 of those 150 keywords, you only had PPC results above the fold, right?
Wow.
So if you want to get to organic results, you need to scroll, and this is obviously this is a drastic change. So I think if we talk about effectiveness in a sense of is it driving revenue? Yes, certainly, because it is so prominent today that most of the clients that we have at Sellics, they do somewhere between 30 and 50% of their revenue through PPC. Right?
What about cost effectiveness?
So that's the other thing.
Okay,
right?
that's it.
The other thing is efficiency, right? So how efficient is it relative to what you spend on it? And there I'd say that it really depends. So overall, I think that it is certainly efficient. The reality is that on Amazon you have an unknown ability to really track the efficiency, right? Because on Google it's very difficult because you track, on AdWords, but then the conversion rate. And so on Amazon you have the advantage that you have a very precise tracking in place. So you can see exactly how much money you make or lose with PPC, and so that kind of keeps advertisers in the balance in some way, so they don't overspend on it.
Just recently, I was with a company that doesn't sell to Amazon, and we were having a discussion. He told me, Amazon wants me to sell them direct, but I'm not sure that's the best model. So what's your advice to companies to try and figure out what is the best model? What aspects should they be looking at?
So I think, quite honestly, I have a pretty strong opinion these days that the 3P model is superior to the 1P model. And this has changed over the past couple of years. So in the past, there was a pretty clear distinction between 1P and 3P. Primarily in the 1P model, you had the advantage of logistics, right, where you could just send it in the Amazon warehouse, and you also had the advantage of marketing, where a bunch of marketing activities were exclusively available to 1P brands. This has changed now over the past couple of years. So with FBA, obviously, the warehouse is becoming available to everyone, and Amazon has also made all the advertising opportunities available to also 3P sellers that have a registered brand. So I think that the advantages that you used to have as 1P are starting to fade, essentially, but the disadvantages remain. And the disadvantages are, first of all, you don't have control over the price because Amazon is setting the price. And second, you have a certain dependency from Amazon because you're selling, your client in that case is Amazon, right? And so what happens is that as the years go by and you start to sell more and more into Amazon, the Amazon will negotiate much harder with you than they used to do at the beginning, right? So that you somehow have those two drawbacks, which I think are quite meaningful. So losing control of a price, that's a big thing, and then also being in this dependency to Amazon, I think, is also something that is not too comfortable, right? And so today, I think that everyone that can sell 3P should actually sell 3P. That's what I think. Now, the reality is that most companies, specifically once they get to a certain stage, they have some procedural limitations or structural limitations that prevent them from actually going 3P. Because they're just not used to go into a direct-to-consumer model, which is 3P essentially means B2C, right?
Yeah.
And 1P is B2B. And so most companies are set up in a way where they can only do B2B, and they're not used to handling support, they're not used to sales tags, they're not used to the logistics of shipping individual units and so on. So I think it is primarily a question of, do you have the setup in your company and the structures in your companies that allow you to go 3P? If yes, then I would go with 3P. And if not, then 1P is fine too. I mean, it's still a good solution. Yeah?
The other big question, or the other big problem I've seen that manufacturers have, and I was talking to somebody recently.
Yeah.
I was on Amazon, somebody has a new product, and I texted them, said, you don't own the buy box. And they said, what's the buy box and why do I need to own it?
Yeah.
So you can explain this a lot better than I can.
Yes, so the buy box is a specific concept that is only known on Amazon. It's quite unusual. So what happens on Amazon, if multiple sellers are selling the same product, they're all grouped behind this one product listing, and then Amazon will choose one of those sellers, which is then the chosen one or the buy box seller that gets placed into the buy box. And so the buy box is this checkout box that you see on a product detail page. So typically on the top right you see this box that says buy now. And so when a consumer clicks on buy now, the consumer will automatically buy from the buy box seller, not from the other sellers that are also selling this product.
Interesting.
Right?
But it might not be you.
It might not be you,
You could
exactly.
be selling the item and they're buying from somebody else.
And they're
Yeah.
buying the same item, but from someone else, right? And so that's a new, a new situation. Most people are used to own their own product listing, and so whenever someone is buying that product, they also buy from you essentially. I know that it is quite frustrating to manufacturers who see this, but ultimately they should keep in mind that it's still their product that's being bought, and it's not a competitor that is being bought, right? I mean, yes, it's another seller, so it's not coming from you directly,
Right.
but this seller bought it from you at some point as well, right? So it is a product that comes out of your own, factory in some way. So then I think that, when I think about competition, it is more who is the other brand that I'm competing with, and not who are the sellers that are also selling my brands, right? That's the way that I look at it. So I think that it is. I would spend more time in thinking of how can I get my other traffic away from the other brands to my listing, and then not care too much about who is then selling my product, right?
Interesting. Well, I still feel like vendors, when it comes to like reselling and stuff, like they still see it as a big problem though of driving down their pricing of their product originally.
Yes, with the pricing, that is certainly an issue.
Uh-huh.
That is certainly an issue, but that's more signaling. It's like they have concern around the brand eroding, and specifically luxury brands that want to where the price is a very important aspect of the experience. That's certainly the case. But I mean.
Well, we see that often in the toy industry, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where essentially the prices are just going down.
Oh, yeah.
But it's interesting because Amazon typically is one of them. If you're in the 1P relationship, Amazon's typically one part of this lowering the prices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can say this. I feel like I see a battle between Amazon and Walmart going on all the time.
Yeah. I mean, so I think the way that Amazon looks at this is that Amazon on a very high level, what they want to have the biggest selection, all the products, the lowest price,
Right.
and they want to have the fastest delivery. Those are the three things that Amazon wants to have. And so the lowest price obviously is determined by the market. And so the market is not just what happens on Amazon, but also what happens outside of Amazon. So I heard stories that Amazon has teams of hundreds of developers that are essentially in charge of monitoring the pricing across different pages, such as Walmart, Target, but even individual online stores, just to make sure that Amazon's prices are competitive to the market. And so again, the market is not just what happens on Amazon and vendors against sellers and so on. The market is every online site that is out there.
If you want to go a little bit more in detail on Sellics and what kind of features you offer, what are the main features you offer, and what makes you kind of like a go-to for people that are selling on Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so Sellics generally, we are an all-in-one solution, so we cover a wide range of use cases, but I think of all the use cases that we cover, there are three very important ones. The first one is Amazon SEO. So we help you in various ways. So first of all, we help you to find the relevant keywords. That's something that we talked about initially at the beginning of the conversation, right? What are the relevant keywords? That's a very big question. In Sellics, this is a matter of a few clicks because we have a huge database of Amazon keywords, and essentially we find the right keywords for your products. We also help you to write the listings, also something that we talked about, right? Where we essentially benchmark your listing with the competitor's listing, and so you have this side-by-side comparison, and you can really see what are the best-in-class products, what are they doing differently than you are, and so you can improve your listing upon this. And then ultimately, we also help you to keep track of your rankings, because that's, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? So you're researching keywords and optimizing listing because you want to improve your visibility and your rankings, right? And so we help you to track this, whether this is really working out or not, right? So SEO is certainly something that is very big in Sellics, and this is also what the thing that we started with. But recently, obviously, as PPC has become so important on Amazon, we have evolved into PPC management and campaign creation. So we help you to set up your campaigns, we help you to manage your campaigns, and if you want, and this is actually what a lot of people want, we also help you to automate your campaigns. So people typically, and especially the big manufacturers, they don't want to spend a lot of time optimizing bids and adjusting their campaigns. So in Sellics, you can just automate the entire campaign management by just setting up some rules and some strategies, and then Sellics will take care of the execution of those strategies. So instead of going in there every day, you can go there once a week or every second week or so. And then the third thing I'd say is everything around revenue reporting and profit reporting. So I don't know if you guys have how often you use Seller Central or Vendor Central, but it is quite painful to get.
I've seen the reporting. Yes.
It is quite difficult to get the relevant numbers out of whichever central you use, right? And so Sellics is integrated with Seller Central and Vendor Central. We pull all the revenues. We have very good visualizations. You can slice and dice it. You can upload your cost of goods if you want to really see the net profit margins that you have. And so this is something that is used excessively as well, because I think that's something that we see happening a lot, is that people before using a tool like Sellics, they don't really know how much profit they really make. Then they at some point they start to realize that they actually lose money once they start using Sellics. And so this is something that I believe is very important to have a good understanding of your numbers.
I'm seeing a lot of companies starting to hire agencies, and a lot of these agencies have ex-Amazon employees, and all of a sudden they're Amazon experts.
Yes.
So if I am a company, a manufacturer, and I'm meeting with Sellics, I'm meeting with other agencies, what questions should I be asking you and these other companies to separate the real experts from the fake experts?
That is a very very good question. So I think, first of all, Sellics is only a software, right?
Right.
And we work a lot with agencies. So many agencies are actually using Sellics to then manage their clients, right?
Okay.
So we really like working with agencies because typically they tend to be quite sophisticated. I think the best, probably one of the best questions you can answer them is how long they've been doing this operationally, right? And how many clients they manage. Because typically what you see is that you need a certain experience in really managing different campaigns over a certain set of time to really understand how this is going. And so what I notice is that people that come directly from Amazon, they typically don't manage campaigns. Yeah. So if you work at Amazon and you're an account manager for advertising, you're selling ads, but you don't manage those ads, right? Okay. Which means that you have a good understanding of Amazon, but not necessarily a good understanding of how to actually implement it yourself, and how to do a strategy. So I think the number one question I'd be asking is, not the agency as a whole, but the one specific person that will be managing my account. For how long has this person been managing Amazon advertising accounts, and how many different accounts has this person seen over the history, right? Then another question I'd be asking is, how many accounts is this person managing simultaneously? So I think that this is something that is very important. And so depending obviously on your size, you cannot manage 50 accounts at the same time. That's impossible. Yeah. That's just I think a good number is below 10, right? This is something where you can really have a strong focus on an account, and I think that should be a good. That should be a good indication. Yeah? So those two questions will give you a feeling of whether they have the experience, right? Then if you want, maybe as a third question, you can ask them how successful they are in hitting their targets, right? So typically you set a certain target. You say, I want to have this return on ad spend, and then you can ask them for references what they've achieved in the past. Yeah? But that's that's how I would tackle this. Yeah?
Yeah, listening to your answer, it sounds like a good agency could really help a manufacturer.
Oh, totally. I think, look, you do need a certain know-how to manage ads on Amazon and in general to be successful on Amazon. And so I think the question is, typically as a manufacturer, you do not have this know-how internally. So it's a question of, do you want to build it internally, which will require some time and learning by doing essentially, or do you want to outsource it to an agency that ideally already has the knowledge? I think what is important when you outsource it to an agency is that you make sure that the agency is briefed on your products and on your target audience. Because it's basically impossible to run ad campaigns and optimize listings if they don't have this understanding. So it's this, the conflict is a little bit, the agency is good on Amazon, the manufacturer is good with the product and the target audience. But really, you need to be good at all of those, all three things, right? And so, some knowledge needs to be exchanged, either this way or the other way, right? So what we see also working quite well is that there are some agencies or consultants, essentially, that upskill the internal teams within the manufacturer. So they come to your company, they stay for a couple of weeks, and it's like a boot camp, essentially, where then you train someone on site, right? But again, you need to have the resources, so you need to have the personnel in your company that is able to do this and learn this. Yeah?
So in respect to manufacturers, what are the biggest mistakes they're making on Amazon?
The biggest mistakes happening on Amazon. So I think probably the biggest mistake is not allocating enough resources to Amazon. I think that for some reason Amazon is in actually a surprising big amount of companies is still underestimated in the sense of how many resources you should put there. So I think that it is important to understand that Amazon is contributing to something like 50% of e-commerce, and so you need to have dedicated people that just focus only on Amazon and that go very deep in Amazon, build up the know-how inside of Amazon. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I see. I see situations where you say, well, I have this assistant, and this assistant is doing all sorts of things, and now this assistant is also doing on top of this a little bit of Amazon, right? And so this person has something like 10 hours a week or so to invest into Amazon, and I don't think that this is enough. So really, if you're a manufacturer, and I understand that this is not possible for everyone, but once you get to a certain size, I think it's absolutely crucial to really dedicate resources to Amazon and really understand that Amazon is a lot more than just uploading your products and waiting for money to flow in, right? Amazon has changed from a distribution channel to a marketing channel over the past couple of years, and so you need to have marketing professionals that deal with this dedicated channel. I think that's the number one problem that we see, or number one mistake that we see, and then obviously from this a lot of other mistakes follow, right? Basic mistakes in not getting the content right. You see things like not aligning advertising with the organic side. So sometimes you see a situation where you have a product listing that is not optimized at all, right? It's a terrible listing, and then you start spending hundreds of dollars in ads to send traffic to that listing, which doesn't really make sense. So first you need to optimize your listing, and then you can run ads on it, right? So all those parts need to be aligned very carefully, and so this alignment typically is difficult if you don't have, again, dedicated people working on this, right?
Franz, we love having guests that really make it an education for us.
Right, exactly. And our viewers too. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming to Shop Talk.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I hope that there were some learnings in there.
Oh,
definitely, absolutely.
Great.
For more episodes of Shop Talk, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned for more.